as we're being joined by the train from the movie we just watched. First and foremost, I have to thank my lovely wife for doing me a favor and being out here at 1 in the morning to watch a movie that surely you would have watched anyway.
Yeah, for better or for worse, I guess.
And Mace. Well, I don't know, you kind of reviewed Justice League in the car with us.
Yeah, well,
Because
yeah, kinda. Well, off-screen Laura is now on-screen.
off-screen when you screamed out, "What a piece of shit!" Who was that? So, okay, now if you've seen our reviews of this before, it's been me and Brian at these movies, at the Maze Runner movies. We were at the first one because I think Sarah might have been busy, because usually it's me and Sarah at the YA movies. So, but she might have been busy that night, so Brian and I went to go see the first one. And I remember us being kind of harsh on the first one, but in retrospect, it was fine. And I think we even said in the video, like, maybe it's unfair for us to review this now, because it was one of those situations where he and I went from, like, one theater to the next. Like, there was no time in between two movies like there usually is. So we went from Walk Among the Tombstones, like, right into, like, the opening credit sequence of Maze Runner.
Yeah.
And Walk Among the Tombstones was, like, for both of us, was one of our favorite movies of that year. And so going in the Maze Runner, we weren't really in the mood for that movie. But in retrospect, flaws and all, the first one's fine. It kind of is one of the better ones of its genre. Then the second one came out. Same thing happened again. I was at a movie that I really liked, which was Black Mass, and had to immediately go into the next theater with no time in between, and like the opening credits were playing again, except Scorch Trials, the second one, wasn't very good. And here I am again. I saw a pretty good movie earlier in the night, which is from the same director as Black Mass.
So which one would you say is the best out of all three?
The first one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like you don't even remember the first two, because I kept on asking you questions. I wasn't trying to be obnoxious. Like, I felt like I was being, like, the senile old man. Like, you know, like, who's that? Like,
That's the maze, honey. It's not a person.
I wasn't trying to be... I was trying to be really quiet. I was like, so is that a main character from the first one? Like, trying to be kind of like... because I don't know...
train.
Because I don't know anything about this movie. Let me just first say, I don't know anything. I haven't seen any of the first two. And I've never read the books. This isn't even my favorite genre, so I'm sorry.
Sure.
I don't like YA movies. Really?
Oh, then why did I invite you? No, I'm kidding. No,
Yeah,
seriously.
yeah, I'm the best reviewer for this movie.
Brian's taken, like, a few weeks off, and, so, like, Irving was, busy tonight, a couple other people were, and you're like, well, guess I could do it. And then it was today, you're like, wait a minute, it's 2.5 hours
This
long.
morning, I was like, okay, I'm expecting this movie to be like, you know, these kind of movies are usually like, I don't know, I'm guessing like an hour and 45 minutes, maybe. And then you're like, oh no, it's 2 hours and 20 minutes. And I was like...
And it's at 10:15 at night.
And,
Or it started
I am
at
not
10:15.
and I'm not a night owl at all. I'm ready for bed at 9 o'clock. And
No. 2.5 hours of the third part of a trilogy you've never seen.
And I took a nap before, and then before I came over to the movie theater, and I'm like, ugh, great. I got some Starbucks, and I'm like, all right, I guess I'm ready for this. And
I liked when I showed you the trailer for this.
oh yeah, okay. So,
earlier when you're like, maybe I should watch the trailer. I'm like, I don't know if I've seen the trailer for this. I don't know if that'll help. And I pulled up the trailer, and it didn't. That left you way more confused than before you even saw the trailer. What is this? What plague? What cure? Why is it the death cure? Who's that?
Because I remember when the Maze Runner movie came out, and I remember like you said it's like a lab rat kind of experiment or something. And,
from what I remember.
yeah, or something like that. And so I was expecting something kind of similar. And now it turns out there's a plague and a cure, and I'm like, what's going on? And
Well, I told you earlier, I was like, they'll probably have like a thing at the beginning that's like previously on Maze Runner. And I was hoping that they kind of would, because honestly, it's been 2+ years since the second one came out.
Right.
The second one was just in one ear and out the other. I barely remember what went on.
Yeah, I know, because I kept on asking you questions, and you were like,
I don't know. And I know that those people are from the previous movies, but otherwise, I don't know.
I'll give the movie credit for this. Like, for someone who has no idea about this movie series, it kind of gave me a good idea about what this world is. Like I kind of figured it out slowly, It's
kind of different in each movie, honestly.
Well, I wasn't left confused throughout the entire thing. Like, it kind of was like, okay,
Sure.
I kind of get it. Like, there's this thing, the plague, and a city, and, that has... Okay, I've never done this before, so there's gonna be maybe some spoilers, so...
Oh, there's spoilers.
Okay, I know, but I've never done this before, so I don't want to be like, you bitch, you ruined...
The Maze Runner, the Death Cure.
You ruined Maze Runner 3 for me. I've never, I've never done this, so, but anyway, so, I'm gonna get into spoilers, I guess. So, I mean, I kind of got how the world works. There was a lot of questions I have. Like, there's a lot of betrayal that I was like...
You're thinking of The Room again. That was the last movie we went to go see.
Oh, and that was fun. That was a fun experience.
Well, I was hoping there would be, like, a catch you up prologue thing at the beginning of it, because, like I said, I kind of don't remember a lot of what happened in the second movie, but I remember more of the first film than the second one, because the first one was a better movie. But there really is no thing at the beginning of this film to catch you up on what you miss. So I laughed and was like, of all movie, like, pretty much any of these movies do that at the beginning of it. Like, at the beginning of, like, the last Insurgent movie, there'll be, like, a hologram head of Kate Winslet going, like, in the years since blah, blah, blah. Like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
And they do that in the fucking Pirates movies, too. This one, though, no, that train sequence you see at the in the trailer is the opening, like, 20 minutes of this movie. So...
That was fine.
Yeah, but... So I was like, alright, well, this movie is probably just going to go in one ear, not the other for me too, like the second one did. I'm going to try not to think too hard about all this. I recognize what actors are from the previous ones, sure. And I was kind of remembering a little bit as it goes along. It's just one of those deals where the second movie is so mediocre, and I see so many movies, especially in between then, because it was like 2 or 3 years ago that one came out. And you can tell that it's well past the end of, like, this genre of YA movie, the dystopian future, there's a plague, and all that. You can tell that we're past that, which isn't really... Because this movie was supposed to come out a year ago, and Dylan O'Brien had a horrible accident on set, and so it was supposed to come out like February of last year, but it's out now, which is, again, kind of past this particular trend of YA movie. And you can tell, because when that trend was going on, even the movies that were like huge bombs still had like a huge crowd on like the Thursday night screenings, like The Host.
I never saw that.
It's like the worst of all the... Like, The Host is fucking terrible, and it bombed. It bombed bad. Like, it didn't do well opening weekend at all.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't know that if you were here on, like, the Thursday night screening, where it was just, like, not an empty seat in the house.
Yeah.
But again, apparently everyone who went to go see that movie was just in Springfield. But now we're like, what was there, maybe 8 people in there for this movie?
Yeah, it wasn't very packed, but,
Yeah, because I guess not everyone wants to go see this movie at 10:15 on a Thursday
I was thinking,
night.
like, maybe because it's, like, at 10:15, maybe that's why, but, the only other YA movies I've ever seen was, was I've seen like some of the Hunger Games, and and I saw the Fifth Wave. Is that Fifth Wave?
Yeah, the Chloe Moretz one
Where Jack Berger dies. Within like 20 minutes. I've seen those, and they're just not my thing. I'm not saying they're bad.
The Fifth Wave was bad.
No, I'm not. Okay, that one was bad. But, and the only reason I saw it is because I was babysitting. But they're not. I'm not saying all YA movies are bad or whatever. It's just like the whole like future dystopian like thing. YA. I don't know. It's just really not my thing.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's my thing either. It's certainly I'm certainly not the demographic for it. But you see enough as a 36-year-old man. You see enough of these movies, and even when it's a genre that's maybe not your genre or among like your favorites or something like that. Like you see enough of these movies that you at least recognize the good ones versus the bad ones. Yeah. Some of them I like. There were a couple. I like the first two Hunger Games movies just fine. Yeah. But I mean, even you having seen the Hunger Games and the
Not
Fifth
all
Wave.
Of them, but some of them.
I mean,
but yeah,
even that.
Is
like,
Twilight
there's
considered kind of?
Yeah, the YA. Yeah,
well, I meant like not like the future. Just
more like. I guess more.
Oh, I know they're kind
of the genre of like monsters and all the teen romance of like Beautiful Creatures or whatever it was called, or Beastly on the really low end of that.
But I would just say like it's been a while since I've seen Hunger Games, and to be honest, I saw this when I was like when it first came out, and I wasn't really paying attention. I don't know, it just wasn't my thing. But maybe I'd like it again. But this movie, I mean, out of all of them, like, I kind of like this one. I mean,
did you?
Comparing it to those other ones that I've seen. But only because it's been so long since I've seen Hunger Games, and I was drunk at the time, so I don't even remember.
So having not seen the first two Maze Runner movies, were you kind of just pretending this was a sequel to Hunger Games?
Probably.
It's a spin-off.
Yeah.
Remember that Thomas guy she met in the first one? I guess this is his movie. This film...
yeah, did you like it?
I'm not gonna remember this movie in a couple of weeks. Like, this movie is 2.5 hours. There's no fucking reason for it to be that long. There is no reason for this movie to be and to feel so goddamn long. Like, I respect the fact that this movie got its conclusion done in one movie.
Right, like we were talking about that this morning.
Yeah, instead of splitting it up into Maze Runner Part 1 and Part 2. You know, maybe them getting kicked in the ass on that with Divergent, maybe that put the nail in that fucking coffin, because I hate that goddamn trend.
Yeah.
This movie at least didn't do that. It is still too goddamn fucking long.
Yeah, I remember at one point I was like, I had to use the restroom, and I was like, okay, maybe I should wait. But then I checked the time, and I was like, okay, oh, God, there's 45 minutes left of this movie. No, I'm just going to go to the bathroom.
I was so ready for this movie to be done.
I know.
I was, like, when it got to some of the remaining moments, and he pulls out a letter that's, like, 2 pages long, I'm like, fuck, he's going to read the whole goddamn thing. End! Please, end!
Dear Thomas.
It could be so... I was like, fuck you! First of all, I was expecting it to be the girl's voice, so when it wasn't, I was like, oh, is it? Oh, okay. All right,
right, yeah.
And so this movie could be chopped down so much because every action scene in this movie goes on for a fucking eternity. Like, every action scene in this film is like a half an hour goddamn long. Enough to where they managed to fit in the Wilhelm scream in there towards the end.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
In like the last 18 hours of this movie when it's the city battle at the end. The movie was more interesting to look at than the last one.
The city part was kind of cool. We were talking about Blade Runner.
Because this movie takes place in Blade Runner, whereas the last one took place in Ishtar. Like, so this one was at least more appealing to look at. And one reason, too, I like this one better than the last one, even though I'm not going to fucking remember this shit after a couple weeks. This movie, overall, it's one of those where it just is one of these movies. Like, I said this last week with 12 Strong in terms of war movies. This one, for this kind of YA movie, it just feels like what it is. It's way too goddamn long, but beyond that, it's actors speaking lines. It's not that the lines are necessarily horrible or they're certainly not great, but it's not like they're speaking the host dialogue or anything like that. They're just speaking lines. They're just getting through this. It's going from one action scene to the other, to the other, to the other, and that's it. And there's not much room for anything else in this 2.5 hour movie.
I would never go out of my way to see this movie. Not because it's not my... It's just... And I don't know. It's just not... Like I said earlier, it's not my cup of tea. You know, it's this genre. The only good part was that guy with... what was his name? From Detroit.
Okay, yeah.
He was great.
So we get about halfway into this movie, and this is after Walton Goggins showed up, looking like Jack Torrance survived the end of The Shining and frostbite took his nose. So
yeah, I didn't get that at all. That was weird.
The Walton Goggins stuff. I mean, it was Walt Goggins on there being weird, so I appreciated that. But
the guy with the deteriorating face and everything, I didn't understand that at all. I didn't know what
the plague.
Yeah, but why wasn't he like a zombie dude? Like, why was
he had I don't know. He had some juices in an IV hooked up to him.
See, I didn't understand the disease at all. Like, I was like,
it's Walt Goggins. He's always weird, so he can survive that shit. It's like how Keith Richards could probably survive this movie. So then a character shows up and like saves them, and he's wearing a gas mask, takes it off, and it's Will Poulter. And I was like, thank God. Oh my God, thank God he's in this. Like, I needed something at this. First of all, he's like my favorite new actor anyway. And in the because he's also in the first one, and I kind of remember in the first one, me and Brian, it took us a while to get used to him, I think, because we had only seen him in We're the Millers, which is like this goofy comedic performance that he's giving in that movie. And he was really good in that one too, but we had like just seen him in that movie, so I think we're like, this is odd that he's in this. But like, yeah, so he's a talented as fuck actor.
Yeah, he was the best part.
He's easily the best part of this movie. And between Detroit, where he gave one of the best fucking performances of the year, easily one of the best villains I've seen in a long time, and he shows up in this movie, I was sitting there like, okay, between Dylan O'Brien and definitely Will Poulter, these actors are so above this movie, but I'm so glad Will Poulter showed up in this movie, because I'm like, okay, he is going to be the best part of this film. And he was. Like, sure, he was kind of speaking lines like the rest of them was, but he's just that good. He's just that good in front of the camera.
Like when they were removing like the thing, and he was like, I'm sure she enjoyed that.
Oh yeah, she's removing these trackers from their neck with a scalpel, and he's got like a big scar, and he's like, oh, she looked like she enjoyed that. One thing you missed when you went out to the bathroom is the guy that they were saving sees Will Poulter and was like, the last time I saw you, didn't he put like a spear through your chest? And then he goes, hey, no one's perfect. And he leaves. Like, I'm like, hey, I'm so glad he's in this film. And Aidan Gillen, who again is playing a nothing villain, just a guy who shows up to bark orders and to shoot at people, but at the same time,
like,
exactly, yeah, it's such a nothing written character, but with Aidan Gillen playing it, he's a delight every time he's on screen for this, again, nothing character, but he's constantly doing it with, like you said,
he's always like, like every line he delivers, it's like one eyebrow's raised, or like, and he's just like, like just kind of like constantly smirking, and you're just like, I didn't know, like I didn't know anything about this character. Was he in the other movies?
Oh yeah, he's got the only memorable line from the second one, which was in all the trailers, where he goes, "You won't last one day out in the scorch."
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't know. Right as soon as I saw him on screen, I was like, all right, that's the bad guy. Like,
oh yeah, anytime you see him in a movie, yes.
Well, I don't really know actors as well as you do. I mean, you know a lot of movie trivia. I mean, I'm sure I've seen him in things, but like, I mean, he just, like, as soon as he starts talking, it's just like, I'm like, okay, he's evil.
There's a pretty great scene in an elevator that involves him and our heroes, like, in disguise. That was a fun scene, and he just kind of has this natural entertainment quality about him. Yeah. Like, he's another great actor. This movie is filled with actors that are too good for this movie. The budget for this film is too good for this movie. This movie has, like, appears to come across like it has a Marvel budget. Like, the whole last act of this film is, like, okay, has such crazy amounts of destruction where I'm sitting there like, is this necessary? Like, because they're trying to get in, get their people, get this cure, and get out and anything. Meanwhile, these people they were helping each other earlier have stormed this city and are destroying it. I'm like, this is partly our hero's fault here. Like,
I didn't like the main character.
Thomas?
Yeah.
Oh, well, real quick, like, this movie has, when it's getting to, like, the city-wide destruction at the end of this, it is so over the top and so honestly unnecessary that I was like, this makes the last act of, like, Man of Steel look like a minor earthquake.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Like, this is... It's
over the top, for sure.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know if I'm really rooting for our heroes, honestly. So you didn't like Thomas?
Nah.
Why not?
I don't know, because there's this one part where, like, you know, with the guy with, like, the nose, he's, like, deteriorating and all this crap. And they're like, and they were talking about how it's impossible to get into this city. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, only Thomas can let us in. Mm-hmm. And then I guess conveniently, this guy, the guy with the deteriorating face or whatever, he has this convenient tunnel they could have used this entire time. And I'm like, why did you need Thomas for this? Like, what makes him so special? And, you know, again, I could be wrong. Like, maybe there's something in the book or the movies in the past that make him so special. And I could have missed
his dreaminess. That's what makes him special. I like Dylan O'Brien. I mean, I
didn't hate him. I was just like, thought, like, everyone was like, oh, he's so special. Like, it's like, okay, why? I could have missed something in the movie. I'm very tired.
Didn't.
I'm very tired.
You didn't miss anything. You didn't miss anything in this. Like, yeah, the Thomas character is just like most heroes in a movie like this. Like, he's there to be super serious, to have this romantic interest, and also just kind of talk a lot of exposition and just all real plot-based dialogue. Really not many characters in this movie have much of a personality. They don't. Like, if a character in this movie has any kind of personality or anything memorable about their character that's sticking out, it's not really because of how it's written. It really is because of of an actor like Will Poulter or an actor like Aidan Gillen. Like, it's because of guys like that, or Walt Goggins. Dylan O'Brien, he's a good actor. I mean, he does what he can with this role. Yeah, like, this role could certainly be played worse. It could be played better too. But he does what he can. He does what he can.
It's not that the way he, like, portrayed the character. It's just like, I don't know, everyone was like, where's Thomas? He's so special. Like, I don't know, it's just like, alright, calm down. I mean, maybe, I don't know, I'm gonna be actually a lot. I can just tell, like,
you'll be fine. Like, Brian and I reviewed the third Pitch Perfect and hadn't seen the first two.
And it's completely different than...
Oh, it's a different kind of movie than this, but I'm sure there's a more rowdier fan base for Pitch Perfect than there is the Maze Runner. And I don't know how many huge Pitch Perfect fans are in our fan base. Probably some, because it's a popular movie. Maze Runner, I don't know. Like, I don't remember us getting yelled at when we didn't care much for the Scorch Trials. From what I understand about the Scorch Trials, and I don't know about this, but the Scorch Trials, I remember hearing from some people that it differed pretty extreme from the book. Like, it apparently took a lot of liberties from the book, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't know if that's the case with this, unless the book is 2,000 pages long and the last half of it's about buildings collapsing.
No, that's really important. We need to show that part.
Only if it's a pop-up book.
Yeah, it's forgettable.
As far as recommending this, look, if you saw the first two and you really liked them a lot, you might as well finish it, I suppose. If you liked the Scorch Trials, you'll probably like this. Because they're both, for me, they're both the same amount of complete forgettableness. I would suggest just wait until it comes on DVD. Just wait until it comes out on DVD. You don't need to see this in a theater. It's too long. It's too long, and it doesn't have enough stuff to. Last week, Brian and I were joking about the fact that Den of Thieves was surprisingly also 2.5 hours long. And while in that movie, you could certainly see where maybe they could cut something here and there. But at least in that, it had more of an ambition than this movie does. It had more character to it than this movie does. It was taking its time to fill in some backstory with some characters. And it was still entertaining. As long as Den of Thieves was last week, I was consistently entertained by it. This one movie doesn't have much in the way of character. It's just action scenes, and they get tedious after a while. So if you want to rent it because you saw the other two, go for it. But theatrically, skip this.
Yeah, I mean, unless you like this kind of genre, like YA movies, I mean, yeah, go see it, I guess, but same thing with you.
Yeah.
If you're gonna see the first two, you might as well just rent the third one and just kind of have it on in the background or something. I mean, like, it's too long.
Or they do the opposite of you. They see just the first two and not the third one.
I recommend that one. That's what I recommend.
I recommend you just skip right to the third film.
That's what I recommend. So you're totally lost. No idea what's going on.
When I reviewed the last Harry Potter movie, I'd only seen the first three.
Now that would be confusing as hell.
I was fine, honestly. Like, because the person who was I sitting next to? I think Jared was sitting next to me and kept filling me in on obvious things. Like, there'd be like a tombstone there, and Jared would lean over to me and go, Dobby died. I'm like, it's like, I didn't see the last few movies, but I can read.
By the way. Yeah, I kept on leaning to you, and I was like,
Who's that? Who's that? Like, I don't know.
And you're like, I haven't seen this movie either, honey. And I'm like,
oh, when you were like, where's the train going or something? And I'm like, well, I don't know what happens in this movie.
Well, I was like, I thought maybe there was some sort of connection to the other two. I don't know.
If there was, I can't remember. I remembered what actors came from the other one. That was the extent of it. It's been ages since I've seen that.
I'm like that old man in the theater, just like, who's that?
Who's that? That's not me saying that. That's all right, everyone. Thanks a bunch in the chat for watching. Next week, I don't know. I'm tired. It's super.
Oh God. And I have to
it's
go to work.
super fucking late. Yeah, thanks a bunch for going to see this with me.
I actually have to clock in.
Huh?
I actually have to clock into my job.
Me too. I have to click like on YouTube at just the right moment, or I don't get my monetization. All right. Thanks a bunch, everyone. See ya.
Bye.
Glasses. I don't want to hit cancel.